Going into what is looking to be one of the most unique seasons in NFL history, there's a lot of breakout potential, and so here are some studs that I think are going to do their thing. To start off this list, we got what could be one of the most underrated wide receivers in football. Last year, the Jets weren't able to find any footing from beginning to end, and the same could be said for the receiver room. No one really stuck out of the group until good old Elijah Moore started to do his thing later in the year. Throughout the last 6 games that he played in, he was ranked as a wide receiver 2 in fantasy, with over 450 yards and 5 touchdowns, compared to his lackluster less than 80 yards beforehand. On paper, it looks like he had an underwhelming rookie season, but when you consider that at max he only played in 11 games, and was able to put up over 505 touchdowns in mostly 6 of those, it paints a much clearer picture. And upon that, the quad injury that put him on IR is now seen as a thing of the past. So going into this year, it's a fresh slate, and if he can be used like he was in the latter half of the season, along with hopefully a more consistent quarterback behind him, then I think he could put up top 15 wide receiver numbers. As opposed to Elijah, Devonta had a much smoother rookie season, considering the fact that he played in every game, was a definite number 1, and had a solid quarterback the entire time. All things considered, it wasn't a surprise that he put up over 905 touchdowns, as he was one of the best rookie wideouts in the league. So with that in mind, shouldn't he be higher in the list? Well...
Wow, we thought it was going to be Deebo Samuel. Turns out A.J. Brown stole the show here.
Someone as talented as A.J. Brown is going to take a bit of the limelight off of Devonta. But then again, you could also say that he opens up the offense way more than before. Without a doubt, I think Jalen will be tossing the rock quite a bit, and I think it will allow Devonta to up his production by a few hundred yards. Instead of 905, maybe this time he'll put up like 1108. And let's just say I'm pretty sure those are top 15, maybe close to top 10 numbers. A bit of a surprise pick for this list, considering how lackluster of a rookie year he had, but I think that's exactly what makes him interesting. He put up over 3,600, 12 touchdowns, and 17 picks with a rough head coach situation, an injured Bud and Travis Etienne, and without the new pieces in Kirk, Ingram, and Zay. So it makes it interesting to consider how well he could perform in a much better spot. I mean, I think he could put up some really solid numbers, but since there is quite a bit of room to grow, there is still a bunch of unknowns. Maybe he'll surprise the football world with a top 10 season, or maybe top 20. But either way, I think he's going to fine-tune his game quite a bit this year, and become the franchise quarterback that the Jaguars need. Another interesting pick is good old Judge Judy. He's coming off a season where he only played in 10 games and didn't have a single touchdown behind just under 500 yards. Needless to say, a bit of a rough sophomore year, but exactly what someone as talented as Judy needs to go off. In a way, this is a perfect storm for him to bounce back, considering that he's coming off of injury, one of the other wide receivers in Tim Patrick is out for the year, and this.
Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos.
Considering that he put up over 850 and 3 touchdowns with Drew Lock, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to think that he'll do better with Danger Russ under center. Maybe he'll go off, maybe Sutton, or maybe both. But I have a feeling that just like DK in Seattle, Jerry will take the intermediate action while Sutton acts like the Lockett in the deep game. Since neither has played a single down with Russell, it's going to be tough to predict. But at least in Jerry's case, I think he'll put up around 1,200 and 6 touchdowns, which in my books are top 10 wide receiver numbers. I'm sure many of you have forgotten about my man JK, mainly because he didn't play a single down in 2021 due to a torn ACL, but he has insane potential. JK was a stud at Ohio State and put together a solid rookie season with over 800 yards and 9 touchdowns on an impressive 6 yards per carry. So although he hasn't done anything since 2020, as you would say, I'm damn sure going to be ready for week 1. A motivation like that is something that makes you feel good about how well he will play. It gives me the impression that he may put up top 15 or top 10 running back numbers. Let's just say, I think him and Lamar will combine for more than 2,200 on the ground, as hopefully the offense gets back to business. Allen's been through a bit of a rough last few years, and it caused many to forget just how good he was only a few seasons ago in 2019 and 2020. 1,100 and 1,200 back-to-back seasons is impressive enough, but with Trubisky and Nick Foles at Q, it shows that Allen can perform in nearly any situation. Keep in mind that back then, his biggest competition at wideout put up half as many yards, which is about as different a situation as it will be in LA. Cooper had nearly 2,000 last year, and although I'm expecting a drop, I still think he'll put up around 1,400, which may seem to make it more difficult for Allen to produce, but I think it actually helps him quite a bit. Since Cooper takes the best cornerback, he paves the way for Allen to dominate whoever is on him, and take advantage of the openings that come from having a guy like Cooper in the same offense. With all this in mind, I would say something like 1,111 touchdowns could be viable, and I think it will prove that he is one of the best wideouts in football once again. I think Devonta has what it takes to be one of the best running backs sooner than later. If you've watched any of his highlights last year, you can see why he has something unique about his game. Because although he only put up 900 last year, a lot of that was due to the fact that he played like a bruiser, looking for hits. Whereas moving forward, it's likely that his stats will look better as he uses his speed to beat guys on the outside. And even though Melvin Gordon is in the same running back room, I think more and more Devonta will gain a greater share of the offense. And so this season, I have a feeling that he'll break the century mark with around 1,200 and maybe like 6 touchdowns. That, along with a few hundred through the year, I would say are Pro Bowl type numbers, and good enough to make the football world well aware of how talented he is. It may be a bit risky to put him so high on the list, but if what's being said about him is true, then he could be what the 49ers need. Trey doesn't have to be a perennial Pro Bowler to do his thing, and I think this season could be his way of proving that. He's only passed for just over 600 yards and 5 touchdowns, but that's absolutely nothing compared to what he'll put up this year. Keep in mind that he has a great O-line, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and a fantastic defense on the other side of the ball, so he's just set up for success. But you just know, if he does well, you can almost bet that people will say, oh, he's a system quarterback. Although I and the 49ers agree that he is much better than Jimmy G. What elevates him above Jimmy is his ability to run the ball, and it will give him the ability to make plays out of nothing, as he could take advantage of all the talent on the offense. Does that mean he'll put up something like 5,050? I would say not likely, but maybe something like 3,530 through the air, along with 500 and a few touchdowns on the ground, could be a reality. Like I said, he doesn't need to be Mahomes to win games, so behind those numbers, I think San Francisco could make a Pro Bowl. You just never know. I've talked about Travis a few times, and it's because he deserves a lot of attention considering how well he played at Clemson. If you add that to the fact that he is Trevor in Jacksonville, then I think Travis could be one of the best dual threat backs in the league sooner than you would think. He may have never played a single snap outside of the preseason, but no matter the case, I have a feeling that he'll surprise quite a few people. He's fast, agile, and is now embracing physicality. I mean, what more could you ask out of someone as talented as he is? So maybe something like 900 rushing and 600 receiving this year could establish my man as one of the best young running backs in football. And yet, I think it's only the beginning of what he can do in Duval. At the very top of this list is potentially a shocker to many, because it's to a T. He's been in the NFL for 2 years, but hasn't popped off like some of his colleagues. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's done well, but he hasn't even passed for 4,530 touchdowns yet, although I have a feeling that will change very soon. In fact, I think he'll pass for nearly as many yards and touchdowns as his other 2 years combined, as he goes for around 4,100 and maybe 35 touchdowns through the year. Because you gotta keep in mind that there's a whole new coaching staff, Waddle's in his 2nd year. Oh, and by the way,
Tyreek Hill has been traded from Kansas City to Miami.
So needless to say, I think Tua is set up for success, and for what I think is going to be a Pro Bowl year for the stud. But anyways, who do you guys think are going to break out this year? Let me know in the comments down below.
Going deep, down the far sideline, it is to the end zone and caught by Devonta Smith.
Thanks for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below stuff you want next. But anyways, see you all soon, and peace out.